Hello and welcome back to the TRS series. In the last few videos, we left off while we created a rule using the rule builder, and now we are at the step of creating the test cases. So we are at the test cases screen. We're going to start right off, and I'm going to open the test case generator. So I'm going to zoom out real quick, and here you can see that we have a very detailed node structure in which there are multiple tests. So we're going to break this down first one by one, and then we're going to discuss the basic nodes. So let's start from the beginning. So we have so basically the purpose again of this template is, as I mentioned in the rule builder video, why we have this base template is because the user should know how each and every of the nodes available in the left node palette can be used to create test cases, right? So all of these nodes at the beginning that you see up till the describe function, all of this is pretty much the same for all of the rules, and these are just the test cases. These are just the initializations and the initial setup of the test case code file. So this is how it has been structured using nodes. And the first is import node, in which there is an import statement which basically more or less remains the same for all of the rules that we have. But in case the user wants to add some other import statement, they can add it using this prompt. Then we have our rule config factory. This is something which will dynamically be fetched using the config that we had selected in the first steps while setting up the rule. And you can actually see it in the generate code, how this rule config is being fetched here, right? So all we have to do is, if I can just show you, yeah, so this is the rule config factory, correct? I'm just going to delete this one, add it here. Right. Yeah. So all you have to do is you have to replace the rule config factory that was previously in the template, and just like place a new one from the node palette so that the rule config factory gets updated. Um, or a very simple step could be, which would not require any manual intervention here, is that you can simply reset the canvas and it would basically default to a much simpler one than the one that you see here. But I'm going to do that after I'm done walking you through most of these nodes here. Um, Next, we have the rule request factory. This is also to get the mock request. We can edit the code from here, but this is pretty much okay, since this is what we had selected in the rule setup step. So we have the network map, we have the actual transaction, and the data cache. Right, then we move forward to the rule request scenario. And this is again a mock scenario in which if I basically just generate the code, yeah. So it basically maps to here, where if the mock request is unsuccessful, the transaction status would be reject. Right. There's not much again to change here, but if you want to still modify the statement according to your personal preference, you can change it from here. Then we have the rule result factory, where you are just going to go, and here you will have to change it from the default ID to the ID which you selected in your rule config. And so that looks good. So I'm just going to save it. Then we have our data cache, and we have our database manager. And again, these are things, the logger service, these are things which are already pretty much dynamically getting changed in the code directly. So this is our data cache, this is the logger service. And now next we have the describe, right? So I'm just going to go into this describe block. So this describe name is what you're going to have to change here, right? And then the describe is basically a block in which you can group certain test cases together. So after describe, we have before each, and before each also is kind of like a setup code um, for one group of test cases. And then we have another describe block and a couple more. Um, and then finally, we have the custom codes, which I discussed earlier, in which we're also setting up some variables to be used in the test cases ahead. Similarly here. And then we have in our before each. Now this is the ones where our test case like grouping is actually happening. So in this before each, we have our data cache, right? And here the describe is basically grouping all of these test cases for the bands of this rule. So I'm just going to rename this. And then the other describe block now is for testing the exit conditions of this rule. So there are two different streams of tests, right? However, now these are all very detailed tests for the base template that we're using, just to kind of give the user an idea of what detailed tests would look like here. So you can click on individual tests here, and you can see what exactly they're checking for. Here it's basically checking if the array is not in numbers. And so there would be an expect statement here. Then it would this one would basically check if there are any empty rows resulting from the query. Um, and then it gives an expect statement here as well. So similarly for all of these, this one checks if the tolerance is not defined. So it should give this relevant error. And then this one, which the tolerance is not a number, and then it should give a like error respectively. So, and then here we also have the bands outcomes. So the band for the max query range, this is the expect statement for that. The user may edit it according to whatever rule they're creating. So I'm just going to like mount here. And so this is fine. I can also change the description here. I can say the reason is the amount exceeds the limit, right? And then there are other test bands as well. So basically now you see that this is the basic structure of the test case. And if the user really wants nothing to do with all of these detailed tests, what they can simply do is they can reset this canvas, right? So I have reset it, and now as you can see, this is relatively much simpler compared to what we had before. So I'm just going to go and double check the rule result. I'm going to change it here. And then that's it. We're good to go. Yeah, I'm just going to generate the code now. I'm going to see if everything looks okay, right? All of the things are in place. The handful test cases that we have now is just for missing bands, missing exit conditions, and if the tolerance does not exist. And these are basically just the very basic setup of a rule config, which every rule basically contains, right? So these are the test cases in the very skeletal template of the test cases now. So I'm just going to go ahead and save it. Right, so I'm going to proceed to the next step. And so basically you're done creating your test cases. Now that we have validated and created our test cases, I'm just going to go back in to kind of see if any of the basic nodes I haven't yet discussed. So yeah, like before each that we had for grouping certain test cases together, We also have before all in case we don't want to group test cases. We can run them in just a single block and use before all instead of before each. Then we have custom code, which we already discussed in the previous videos. This is just if the user wants to straight up write some code, they can use this node. Um, then we have logger service, which again, if I place logger service node anywhere, it's just going to initialize the logger service. Um, the user really won't have to do anything here. And then, yeah, I don't see any other thing that we did not discuss already from the template. So yeah, that's it for today's video. I'm going to go ahead and discuss the functions. Um, I don't see anything we didn't already discuss already. We do have the custom test in which like the custom code node, we can write some test code as well here. So in which we know the basic structure that, we write the logic and then we have an expect statement in our test. So this is the basic structure of that, and the user is free to write their own test in the code form here. Then all of these that you see labeled predefined functions are the test cases that I had already discussed, um, belonging to the initial base template, the more complex one. So yeah, these are basically reusable. If I just drag and drop this here, and if I want to just edit this test now and change the expect statement to kind of mold it to whatever rule I'm creating the test for, I can always do that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the nodes for the test case generation. I'm going to go ahead and still save it and then proceed to next step. And that's pretty much it. We have our validated test cases, and now we can move forward to simulation, which I'm going to cover in the next video. Thank you.